Now, it's Friday, and that's when we talk food here on The Pulse. Today, we bring you a story of a restaurateur who started his business at the height of the credit crunch. He's Russell Norman, former director of Caprice Holding and previously responsible for restaurants such as Scott's and the Ivy. He branched out on his own last year, opening Polpetto, a small restaurant based in Soho in the heart of London. Despite the uncertain economic climate, the average queue on a Saturday night is 1.5 hours long. And now Norman has opened a new restaurant called Polpetto, also in Soho. Our Richard Vines caught up with him and asked him about the inspiration behind his restaurants and his menus.
It's a tale of two cities, really. It's clearly inspired by the bakery of Venice. And even a cursory look at the menu would give you clues as to that origin. But it's also bakery are Venetian pubs, for want of a better expression. They're the backstreet wine bars where you drink a glass of wine and have a few cicchetti. These are little snacks. Soho's got a really poor reputation as the sort of the centre of the sex industry in London. But to me, it's a village, pure and simple, like any other village, like Hampstead or Primrose Hill or Mayfair even, and it has a very villagey neighbourhood feel. And my restaurants work in a neighbourhood, and it just so happens they work particularly well in this one.
I was going to say, it does have the sex side as well.
It does have the sex side too, and you know, obviously that's the giggle titter side of Soho that most people are familiar with. But you know, there are people that live here. There are people that you know that have lived here all their lives. That that shop in the grotty little supermarkets, that hang their washing out on their balconies in the summer, you know, so it's a genuine neighbourhood.
Do you find it like New York?
Soho reminds me a lot of New York, yeah. Not specifically, it doesn't remind me of any particular New York neighbourhood, but it reminds me of New York in the sense that it is a neighbourhood. New York, Manhattan, is made up of neighbourhood after neighbourhood after neighbourhood, and Soho is a little village, you know, within a metropolis, but a village nonetheless.
And Richard Vines joins me now. And Richard, it's interesting because Russell Norman, who you're speaking to there, has focused his business very much on informal, smaller eateries. Are they perhaps more recession-proof than the larger restaurants?
I think they're perfect for this time. In the 90s, when everything was booming, you got huge Conran restaurants with hundreds of covers, and these places, Polpetto just seats 28. And of course, you know, if people are going out less and possibly spending less, a low-priced small restaurant's a good business to be in.
And how much of an American influence is there in Russell Norman's menus? Is London dining becoming more and more like New York?
There's a huge influence. He and his chefs have been going back and forth from New York, looking at restaurants, Lower East Side mainly, taking some particular ideas, like the wine list, he said, is a straight lift from the Fatty Crab in New York. So there is a big influence on his restaurant. But also we've got New York restaurateurs coming over, such as Daniel Boulud, who opened recently.
And what does that mean? Speaking about the American influence, what does that mean in terms of the food, the menu itself?
I think it's more casual and the places look a bit more older. We used to like very kind of shiny new place in London, and I think these neighbourhood places that look like they've been there a few years, more informal, the food unfussy is the trend now.
And tell me a little bit about Soho and the restaurants in that area, because we heard Russell really pointing out that Soho is about much more than the sex industry. There's a little community there, lots of places to actually go and eat in.
I lived in London in the 70s, and Soho certainly wasn't a no-go area, but it wouldn't be a place you'd normally go to have a nice meal or go with your family. But now a lot of restaurateurs are coming in, picking up places. There's even an old sex cinema that's now being turned into a restaurant in Soho, and I think that's the way the trend is going.
Richard Vines, thanks very much.